So, welcome everybody to this talk. It's lovely to see you again, and some of you are new to this series of talks, but welcome very much everybody to this particular talk. And it's entitled Cryptic Meanings of Rosicrucian Headpieces and Other Such Emblems. And it's the fourth of the series of 5 talks on Rosicrucian cryptography that I'm giving this year, 2024, in order to celebrate the quattercentenary of the publication in 1624 of the great cipher manual Cryptomenytices and Cryptographiae, which is Latin for Cryptomenytics and Cryptography. Now, as I've said before, the extra special thing about this great cipher manual is that it provides keys to help us discover and decipher the cryptography in publications such as the 2 famous folios that were published as twins in 1623 and other books authored by members of the Rosicross fraternity. The 1623 twin folios were the Shakespeare first folio of plays, titled Mr. William Shakespeare's Comedies, Histories and Tragedies, and Francis Bacon's greatly augmented Latin version of his Advancement of Learning, which was titled De Dignitate et Augmentis Scientiarum, which was largely responsible for setting in motion modern science and, more recently, the development of digital technology, including the computer and internet system, which we increasingly rely on today. Now that's quite something, and most people don't realize it. Cryptomenytices and Cryptographiae also provides keys to many types of cryptography which are still being used today, often without people realizing it, which of course is a major reason why it is called a secret language. Now, there are many different types of cryptography. When most people think of cryptography, they usually think of cipher, of letters and numbers. However, one of the main types of cryptography that affect us all greatly are the visual ones. For as the old adage says, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so it's the visual type that I particularly want to focus on in this talk. For such cryptographic pictures contain secret messages of a visual kind rather than the letter and number kind, although they can contain that as well. Moreover, their symbolism usually conveys several levels of meaning, such as metaphorical, historical, scientific, and spiritual meanings. Even though the word cryptography is normally taken to mean number or letter ciphers of some kind, the word graphics means to most people a 2-dimensional visual image of some kind. But in fact, the word cryptography refers to both number-letter ciphers and 2-dimensional cryptic images. And this is because the word graphics is derived from the ancient Greek word graphikos, which refers not only to drawing and painting, but also to writing. And Duke Augustus's Cryptomenytices and Cryptographiae describes both and contains both in its printing. Now, in my second talk in this series, the second Trithemius, the Rosicrucian Master, I talked at length about the cryptic pictures on the title page of Cryptomenytices and Cryptographiae. So I propose starting this talk with a description of the one and only pictorial headpiece contained within the Cryptomenytices folio. And this will then lead us on to other such cryptographic headpieces in the twin Bacon and Shakespeare folios published in 1623, and other Bacon and Shakespeare works, which cryptically reveal many secret things. And I'm going to share my screen now. And it is of great importance. demonstrating how graphics such as these convey profound secret messages via their symbolism and geometry, as also their placement and number of appearances in the publication. For instance, the 10 appearances of this headpiece reference the 10 Sephiroth, or emanations, of the Kabbalistic tree of life. Now, its appearance on the first and last pages reference Sephira number 1, Kether, meaning crown or I am that I am, and Sephira number 10, Malkuth, meaning kingdom, bride or holy grail. And these two Sephiroth help to explain what Alpha and Omega mean in the statement, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last, as written in the book of Revelation, chapter 22, verse 13. For instance, Sephira number 1, the crown, signifies the Messiah, the King of Kings, or Divine Spirit, while Sephira number 10, the kingdom, signifies his bride, the soul, who becomes the Queen of Queens when the two are married, the result of which is the birth of their child, the light of delight. Now, notably, 3 of the headpieces are not printed at the top of a page and heading a section of some sort as per normal, but instead appear at the end of a section, 1/3 or halfway down the page, and in conjunction with an end piece or tail piece, as they're called, that is printed directly beneath the headpiece. So I'm pointing to them now. Number 3, that one, and that one. So these 3 occur on the 3rd, 7th and 9th pages of headpieces. And these are the 22nd page of the 36-page unnumbered preface, and pages 434 and 484 of the 4903 numbered pages. One interpretation is that these 3 refer to the 3 Sephiroth of the Tree of Life, symbolized by stellar and planetary symbols considered to be feminine in classical and English Kabbalah. Sephira number 3 is represented by the Pleiades star cluster. Pleiades means the 7 sisters. And Sephira number 7, symbolized by Venus, and Sephira number 9 by the moon. In other words, page 22 of the preface corresponds to Sephira number 3, the Pleiades. And page 434 of the main text corresponds to Sephira number 7, Venus. And page 484 of the main text corresponds to Sephira number 9, the moon. Then we can note that the page number 484, number 484, is 22 squared. 22 times 22 equals 484, which links page 484 with the main text with page 22 of the preface, which links the Pleiades with the moon. Now, there are many other interpretations, but I'll leave any other interpretations for those of you who are interested to work out for yourselves. This is just to set you going if you are interested. Now, returning back to the headpiece. As per normal in Renaissance art, the headpiece portrays a framework upon which nature grows. And the framework symbolizes the divine law or laws of wisdom that lie within the universe and form the foundation of harmony upon which all the individual forms of life evolve and grow. And the framework also indicates how the divine being manifests as a polarity, but joined together at the center, the heart, the source, in a unity of love. In the Hebrew original of Genesis, the first book of the Torah, and nowadays of the Holy Bible, the very first sentence names the divine creator as Elohim, which is a plural word that is nowadays pronounced and spelt Elohim, but translated simply as God, which tends to be misleading. But Elohim is a plural word and refers to Al, the divine father, and Allah, the divine mother, united together in a unity of love. In other words, God is male and female, which is why man, meaning mind or soul, is created male and female in the likeness of God, as verses 26 to 27 of Genesis chapter 1 tells us. In the first sentence of Genesis chapter 1, Elohim create or become the polarity of heaven and earth, which makes possible all else that follows. Then nature in this headpiece is shown growing upon and through this framework. Nature is portrayed in its various stages, from plant to bird, to human, to angelic. Moreover, each form shown and its position in the headpiece is symbolic of a truth. The plants, for instance, portray how each plant sprouts from its seed, then produces leaves, flowers, and fruit in succession. And we know that in the fruit is the seed for new plants, new growth, new cycles of the life process. In other words, this portrayal demonstrates symbolically the fundamental cyclic life process of all created things in the universe, with each cycle of life having the four basic stages signified by the sprouting, leafing, flowering, and fruiting of nature. And in the human being, this translates into impulse, desire, thought, and action, which is repeated over and over again. Now, in terms of creatures, animals and fish are not shown in this headpiece, but birds are. And the two birds shown are portrayed at each end of the headpiece, perched on the final extension of two plants. And if you look closely, you'll see that these two birds are eagles. And the eagle is symbolic of high-flying consciousness and clear sight, and is emblematic of the Rosicrucians, whose patron saint is St. John the Beloved, known as the Divine, the Great Seer. As Francis Bacon noted in his History of Life and Death, which was first published in Latin in 1623, to quote, "St. John, an apostle of our Saviour and the beloved disciple, lived 93 years, and he was rightly denoted under the emblem of the eagle for his piercing sight into the divinity, and was a seraph among the apostles in respect of his burning love." And St. John the Beloved is reputed to be the great seer of Revelation, the last book of the Holy Bible. And he is the patron saint of the Rosy Cross degrees, the higher degrees of initiation. And to see with the eyes of the eagle, which refers to having developed a piercing sight into the divinity, is associated with those degrees. And those degrees are the degrees of what we call illumination. In the second Rosicrucian manifesto, the Confessio Fraternitatis Rosae Crucis, or the Confession of the Fraternity of the Rosy Cross, that was published in 1615, warns that only those who have received strength borrowed from the eagle may behold the Rosicrucian fraternity and their house of the Holy Spirit. This refers to the fact that it is only possible to see the Rosicrucian fraternity of illumined souls by being in a state of illumined consciousness oneself. Otherwise you don't see them, don't recognize them. The fact that there are two eagles shown in this headpiece, one at each end, left and right, symbolizes the polarity or twinship of all living forms of life, even when in a state of illumination. And the eagles are portrayed with their heads turned towards the twin cherubic boys depicted halfway between them and the center of the headpiece. The eagles also have their beaks open, looking as if they are sounding or calling, which is sometimes described as a piping sound or a peal. These two eagles help to describe what the two cherubic-looking boys represent, who, like the eagles, are also winged and making piping sounds or peals through their trumpets. Now, these two cherubic-looking boys signify the heavenly twins, as described in the classical myth of the Gemini, children of Leda and the Swan. Gemini, in case you didn't know, is the Latin word for twins. Leda, in fact, gives birth to two sets of twins. Each set consisting of a brother and sister, with one set being immortal and the other set mortal. The immortal and mortal twins. In terms of the brothers, the immortal brother is called Pollux, and the mortal brother is called Castor. And after many adventures together, during which they become close to each other in loving friendship and endeavour, the mortal Castor dies. As per normal, we all die when we're in a mortal body. So Pollux, stricken with grief, begs the great god Zeus to restore Castor to life again, saying that he is willing to sacrifice his own immortality in order that his mortal brother might be raised to immortality. And Zeus, the great god Zeus, who perceives the love of the Gemini brothers for each other, grants this wish, but adds to it the blessing that both brothers will become immortal mortals, being eternally linked together, whether incarnate in mortal lives or dwelling in heaven as immortals. So both brothers become immortal mortals and are known as the heavenly twins. And this is why the two brothers in the Cryptomenytices headpiece are both shown winged. They're also shown as naked children, because as Jesus said, in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, we must become like little children. Little children trust their parents to look after them, protect them, help them, and teach them, whilst they themselves play games such as hide and seek, searching for the hidden truth and the meaning of life, whilst learning and developing all the time. And the nakedness refers to the purity or holiness of life required to enter heaven. In other words, a life of moral integrity. And the wings denote that the twins can fly into the heavens of Rosicrucian consciousness. Now these wings could be either eagle wings or swan wings. Eagle wings because they can see with the eyes of the eagle, as indicated by the eagle behind each of them. And swan wings because, as children of Leda and the Swan, they were born from swan eggs and as such are known as swans. And this is why Ben Jonson, in his ode to the author Shakespeare, prefacing the 1623 Shakespeare First Folio, calls Shakespeare the sweet swan of Avon. And the name Shakespeare in turn references the Gemini brothers, who, as well as swans, are also known as spear shakers or Shakespeares. Now, not many people know that. The Gemini spear shakers are shown clearly in a headpiece from Francis Bacon's 1623 De Dignitate et Augmentis Scientiarum. Here they are with their spears on each side, shaking their spears at the dragons of ignorance. And Ben Jonson confirms all this in his ode to the author Shakespeare that prefaces the plays in the Shakespeare First Folio, when referring to the lines written by Shakespeare, in each of which he seems to shake a lance as brandished at the eyes of ignorance. The eyes of ignorance refer to ignorant minds, which are traditionally symbolized as dragons, as in the portrayal of St. George and the dragon. In other words, it suggests that Shakespeare, the sweet swan of Avon, who shakes his lance against the dragons of ignorance, is a pseudonym for a Gemini brother, or brothers, because there are always two. And Avon, which simply means river, it's the Celtic word for river, refers to the River Thames, as the complete Sweet Swan of Avon sentence in Jonson's ode to the author tells us. To quote, "Sweet swan of Avon, what a sight it were to see thee in our waters yet appear, and make those flights upon the banks of Thames, that so did take Eliza and our James." And the famous palaces on the River Thames, where Queen Elizabeth and King James used to see such plays as part of their regular entertainment, were York Palace, later called Whitehall Palace, Greenwich Palace, Hampton Court Palace, and Richmond Palace. Now, in the Cryptomenytices headpiece, the twins are shown blowing anaphils, herald's trumpets, equivalent to church portrayals of the angels who blow anaphils in the book of Revelation, the last book of the Holy Bible. And this emphasizes that the headpiece is representing the revelation when truth is revealed and known. And in the center of the headpiece is shown what is called the face of bride. You see her face there. And she's depicted with her veil removed, which signifies truth revealed. And the feminine bridal representation is used because the human soul is symbolized as being female in relation to the Word of God, the Logos, who is symbolized as male. And this is because the Word of God, that's the divine wisdom, is the creative force, whilst the soul is the mind or intelligence that receives the force of the wisdom and gives it form. The Word is the life force, the soul is the life form. The Word, the divine wisdom, is the creative truth, which truth is love. And to receive and give love in return is also truth, the receptive, responsive aspect of truth. These two truths, creative and responsive, are known traditionally as the double truth. And they refer to the divine wisdom and divine intelligence, or spirit and soul. When the soul experiences, realizes, and knows the truth, it is illumined by it, and as a result shines with light. This light, also known as delight, delight, is referred to as the child of the marriage. Delight is happiness, if you didn't realize that. Be happy. Many people keep telling us all to be happy. Many great people keep telling us to be happy, and that's it. That means be delight. But we have to produce that delight by loving each other and building up our friendships. But all this is symbolized in the traditional marriage ceremony. And at the moment of marriage, the veil is removed from the bride's face, so that the bride and bridegroom see each other face to face and exchange their love in an intense moment of delight. And in that moment, they each know that they truly love each other. And as a result, they shine with light, radiant with the light of love, their child of light. I expect we've all witnessed that. I certainly have. However, even though the soul is both male and female, symbolically truth revealed is associated with the woman because she is the one who receives the seed from her man and as a result gives it form and then births it as their child. For this reason, therefore, the bride symbolizes the mind or soul, the intelligence, which can receive the seed of wisdom, give form to it, and birth it as the light of knowledge. And Francis Bacon refers to this double truth as the truth of being and the truth of knowing, the Alpha and the Omega. Being consists of spirit, the wisdom, and soul, the intelligence. This is the divine self, the Alpha. To know oneself is the Omega, and this is revelation. In most Renaissance portrayals of bride as truth revealed, such as in the headpiece adorning the 1593 and 1594 quarto title pages of Shakespeare's two poems, Venus and Adonis and Lucrece, which I'm showing here now, bride's veil is shown secured behind her ears and hanging down beneath her chin. However, in the Cryptomenytices headpiece, instead of a veil, cherubic wings are shown on each side of the face, embracing it, with their tips meeting between bride's chin. And cherubim are the angels of knowledge, the angels of light. Their wings, of which there are 4 in symbolism, signify this light. And 2 of the wings point downwards, which are here shown as the 2 wings embracing bride's head. And the other 2 wings, which point upwards, are represented by the 2 bows of the ribbon love knot above bride's head. That's the love knot there I'm pointing to now. Not only do such ribbon bows symbolize love and marriage, but the arrangement of the bows and wings indicates that the center of the cherub coincides with the crown chakra of bride, further indicating that she is a fully illumined soul, knowing the truth of love and shining with that love. So I'm going slowly now, so that you can take all this in. The face of bride is also known as the face of truth. For this reason, bride's face is depicted at the very center of the Cryptomenytices headpiece, which center denotes the heart of God, the heart of the universe. And this is because in the state of illumination, the secret of the heart shines through the face, revealing its truth, which truth is love. And this is seen and talked about as the marriage of heart and head, which is symbolized by the marriage of the sun and moon, wherein the sun symbolizes the heart and the moon symbolizes the head. So in summary, this bride Gemini headpiece, therefore, represents the whole purpose and goal of human life, to achieve knowledge of truth, which truth is love, and thereby become illumined by it, experiencing the joy and peace that this brings, and then sharing it with others. And this is what is called the Rosicrucian state of being and consciousness. Now this Cryptomenytices Gemini bride headpiece should help provide insights into the similar headpieces used in the Shakespeare works and the philosophical works by Francis Bacon. For instance, the Shakespeare Poems, Sonnets and Plays each have a Gemini headpiece, with each one different from the others, such that it gives the idea of the three worlds of existence: the spiritual world, the celestial world, and the natural world. The Gemini headpiece printed on the 1593 and 1594 quarto title pages of the two Shakespeare poems, Venus and Adonis and Lucrece, indicates the spiritual world of archetypes or spirits. I'm showing this at the top here. The Gemini headpiece printed on the 1609 quarto title page of Shakespeare's Sonnets indicates the celestial world. That's the middle one here. And the Gemini headpiece printed twice in the 1623 Shakespeare First Folio of Plays indicates the natural world. And that's at the foot here. Now let's look at each one in turn. The headpiece adorning the title pages of Venus and Adonis and Lucrece portray the two Gemini as winged pan-like figures, each emerging from a letter A and blowing horns. And this in itself tells us that we're dealing with the spiritual world of spirits, the realm of gods and goddesses, angels and archangels, who are the divine archetypes and or thought forms of creation. And the two A's signify the double truth that is hidden in the Hebrew names Al and Allah, the divine father and mother of all creation, who together are the Elohim, the creators of all, as written in the original Hebrew version of the first chapter of Genesis. And this Hebrew name Elohim has been rendered simply as God in translations of the Torah, which disguises the fact that they are two, male and female, united in love. I find that rather sad that it's been forgotten. But it should be shouted out loud, especially nowadays it's possible to do. The pan-like Gemini are an expression of that inherent duality and form the archetype for the whole of nature's attainment of a unity in love. And the pan-like Gemini have veils dropped down beneath them, hanging close to where they emerge from the two A's, thereby indicating that they and the truths they represent started by being veiled but are now revealed. In the centre of the headpiece is the face of bride, with her veil dropped beneath her chin, revealing her face and crowned with 7 plumes. And she is Echo, the bride of Pan. And with her veil lowered, she represents truth revealed, the illumined state of being. She's also a duality, but this duality is still hidden, to be revealed in another headpiece that twins this one. In this headpiece, bride is the archetype for the mystical marriage that produces illumination, truth revealed. And each side of her is a peacock, the sacred bird of Hera, sister wife of Zeus, the king of the gods and goddesses. And Hera is the queen of the gods and goddesses, and patroness of women, marriage, childbirth, and family. And the two peacocks pull the goddess's chariot, but here they're shown standing on plant outgrowths emerging from behind bride's veil. And the peacock symbolizes integrity, beauty, illumined thoughts, rejuvenation, wisdom, creativity, joy, and immortality. Their wings symbolize the wings of angels, with the eyes in their tails symbolizing the all-seeing eye that sees and knows everything. The two cornucopian outgrowths of nature represent the whole growth of nature, from a seed to a plant which produces leaves, flowers, and fruits, thereby designated the whole archetypal cycle of life. And the two A's can be seen blossoming from the ends of these two spiraling cornucopian plants, with the pan-like Gemini appearing out of them like fruits of the natural growth process and blowing their seeds a vibrating sound all over the universe. And this portrays the archetypal process wherein wisdom, which lies hidden within nature, is gradually brought to light, revealed, and made known in the continuous cycles of life. And the Shakespeare Sonnets Gemini headpiece, which I'm showing now, also depicts the Gemini each side a bride. In this instance, though, they are portrayed as two winged Cupid-like brothers flying in the air, whilst at the same time touching or holding on to the natural plant-like forms beneath them. And as such, they're known as the heavenly twins, the immortal mortals, who unite heaven, the spiritual world, and earth, the natural world, in a unity of love and friendship. This immortal mortal realm is the celestial world of illumined consciousness, the Rosicrucian world. Between the heavenly twins, in the middle of the headpiece, the head and face of bride is depicted, but much smaller than in the poem's headpiece. And she's crowned with 7 plumes, but which this time look like feathers. And her face is fully visible, revealing the truth of love, but this time there is no veil to be seen, as the marriage has already been accomplished. Below her head, her chest is represented as the arching stems of 2 spiraling plants that touch each other at her heart, and with 3 salmon hanging beneath in place of her abdomen. The 3 salmon depict the fish that are fished out of the sea by the fishermen, and reference the attribution of fishermen to Jesus Christ and his apostles. Fish symbolize human souls swimming in the waters of natural mortal life. And salmon signify the royal fish, symbolic of virtuous souls, disciples of Christ. Allegorically, such salmon, when fished out of the water into the air and then baked on the fire, are eaten by the fisherman, and thereby become part of his body or her body in terms of bride. And this allegory is recounted in the Gospels, with its starting point appearing in Matthew chapter 4 verse 19 and Mark chapter 1 verse 17, and then completed in John chapter 21. If you're interested, you'll be able to look that up. The allegory also refers to the 2 baptisms, first by water, which denotes purification, then by holy breath and fire, i.e. air and fire, which denotes illumination, the fiery breath. To be fished out of the waters of mortal life and into the air and fire of immortal life refers to the psychological death, resurrection, and ascension of the soul, the mortal soul raised immortal. And such ascended souls are the immortal mortals, the illumined ones, symbolized as the heavenly twins or as swans. But there is more shown symbolically than just this mythological, allegorical wisdom. Directly beneath each twin brother is a hair. You see it? They're the hare, two hares. Hares were originally known as conies. So two conies back to back renders a baconi rebus. In other words, this headpiece is signalling that historically the two Gemini brothers are baconis, or Bacon brothers. This headpiece, therefore, can be considered a signature of the Gemini brothers Francis and Anthony Bacon, the two poets, as the Shakespeare Sonnet 83 declares. There lives more life in one of your fair eyes than both your poets can in praise devise. And that's because Anthony Bacon was a poet like his brother Francis, and wrote sonnets when abroad that he sent home to his friends in England, as well as continuing to write sonnets when he was back in England. Moreover, his arrival back in England was when Shakespeare, in inverted commas, was born, in terms of the Shakespeare works, a fact that is far more than just a coincidence. And we will find this Baconi signature again in the Shakespeare Folio of Plays, but in a slightly different way. The Gemini headpiece printed in the Shakespeare First Folio of Plays shows the two Gemini brothers again, but instead of the face of bride, a sheaf of wheat is shown in the centre. And this alone tells us that this headpiece symbolizes the natural world, but so also do the Gemini brothers, because the Gemini brothers are portrayed without wings and reclining naked as little children upon two large letter A's. And each brother holds in his outstretched left hand the end of a ribbon that ties together the sheaf of wheat. And this wheat sheaf is a Freemasonic image, which is derived from the Dionysian lesser mysteries as practiced at Eleusis and elsewhere. And nakedness represents purity, and childhood represents a person who is ready to enter the kingdom of heaven. And the wheat sheaf represents the mortal human soul, also known as the natural soul, which metaphorically has to grow like a plant and produce fruit, its ear or head of grain. And after this has been sun-ripened, the wheat is harvested, threshed, winnowed, and the grain extracted. And this grain is then either sown into a field to produce another harvest, or it is made into a dough and baked in an oven so as to become bread. And the bread is symbolic of the resurrected and ascended soul, the mortal soul raised immortal to become the immortal mortal, the Rosicrucian, who shines like the sun. In Jewish and Christian rituals, this bread of heaven is symbolized by the bread used in the Passover meal or Eucharist. And the two A's on which the Gemini brothers recline represent the double truth, which provide the foundation on which all life depends and from which all life flows. One A is shown in the light and the other in the shadow, which further emphasizes the double truth, linking it with the polarities of sun and moon, of day and night, wisdom and intelligence, heart and mind. To be shown reclining on the two A's signifies that the Gemini brothers are fully aligned with and supported by and dependent on this double truth. And the two A's touch each other beneath the sheaf of wheat or barley, symbolizing their union in love. Touch is so important. Beneath the conjunction of the two A's is the head of Pan as the green man, from whose crown the vegetation grows. And in this portrayal, the head of the green man is that of a lion, indicating heart nature, which means a loving and courageous nature. And crouching on the vegetation is a squirrel on the right-hand side of the headpiece, which is left as we look at it, and a hare or coney on the left-hand side, which is the right-hand side as we look at it. Beneath them are two allegorical creatures, each one winged and each different from the other. Now both the hare, which is a coney, and the squirrel were known in those days as bunnies. Bunnies. But whereas hares or conies run along the ground, squirrels climb trees. And this is a Baconian jest, and is a neat way of describing the Baconi partnership in terms of the two types of animal, both known as bunnies, and their symbolic relationship with the cross of light and the twin great pillars of Solomon's temple, and also to point out that both are needed. Both are needed. Climbing trees is related to the vertical axis of the cross, and running along the ground is related to the horizontal axis of the cross. The squirrel is traditionally a solar animal, the hare a lunar animal. And the right-hand pillar of wisdom is associated with the sun, which gives light, and the left-hand pillar of strength is associated with the moon, which reflects the light. And the two work together, just as the Freemasonic axiom says, wisdom to design, strength to support. In other words, it signifies that one Gemini brother designs, the other supports, which accurately describes the respective roles of the two Bacon brothers, Francis and Anthony Bacon. In terms of the Shakespeare works, what is designed and supported is the temple of the Shakespeare works, which is then adorned with beauty by means of the labour of love involved in acting or publishing the works. Now, another headpiece that also shows a squirrel and a hare, as well as the Gemini boys reclining on two letter A's, is the one that heads two supplementary pages of Hebrew and Latin that are positioned after two treatises on Hebrew grammar, which were bound together to make one book called Hebraicum Alphabetum, meaning the Hebrew alphabet. The two Hebrew grammars, the second of which says it was previously published in Paris in 1566, are interleaved with sheets of English-made paper containing Francis Bacon's handwriting. And this handwriting either makes editorial alterations to the printed Hebrew text or amplifies it with Greek, Chaldaic, Syriac, and Arabic translations. How about that? In Francis Bacon's handwriting. And the two printed Hebrew grammars end with the sentence ex collegio montis, acuti 20 Decembris 1576, meaning from the Acute Mountain College, 20th December 1576. The acute or perceptive Mountain College is a seeming reference to the double-pointed Mount Parnassus, the mountain of inspiration, poetry, arts and sciences, home of Apollo, Athena and the Muses, and of the Delphic Oracle and College of Initiates. The one glaring difference in this headpiece compared to that printed in the Shakespeare Folio is that instead of the sheaf of corn in the centre, it shows a cornucopian vase or grail of fruit. Now the grail of fruit has a similar meaning to the wheat sheaf, both of them being a collection of the harvested fruits of nature. And the two creatures beneath the squirrel and the hare are the same as in the Shakespeare Folio headpiece, but easier to see in this earlier headpiece. The creature on the lower right-hand side of the headpiece, that's to your left as you look at it, has the features of a winged lamb, with ears standing up and forelegs stretched out in front. And the winged lamb is indicative of the Agnus Dei, or Lamb of God, that is symbolic of Christ, the Son of God. The creature on the lower left-hand side of the headpiece, to your right as you look at it, has the features of a griffin, with the body of a lion and the head, feet and wings of an eagle. And the griffin denotes strength, courage, righteousness and guardianship. It is known for guarding treasure and all things precious, and will fight to the death to keep corruption and evil out of whatever it is protecting. These two are associated with the right-hand side and left-hand side, respectively, of the Kabbalistic tree of life. The Agnus Dei representing mercy and the law of redemption, and the griffin representing judgment and the law of karma. That's the law of cause and effect. Now, the Bocconi bunny signature was also used in Francis Bacon's De Dignitate et Augmentis Scientiarum, but instead of a coney and squirrel, or two conies, this headpiece contains two squirrels sitting back to back. These two squirrels or bunnies can be seen beneath the Gemini spear shakers and the dragons they are about to spear. The squirrels are shown squatting on what look like the front legs of plant-like creatures, and the squirrels are eating acorns. And this is a motif signifying not just the storing of acorns, but the actual eating and digesting of them, making them part of oneself. And acorns, the fruit of the oak tree, symbolize knowledge of truth, knowledge of the wisdom that has been discovered and the immortality it bestows. And the oak tree from which acorns are derived is known as the king of the trees and associated with Zeus, the king of the gods. The oak is a symbol of wisdom and strength. And so meetings of priests, prophets and seers of many lands and cultures took place beneath oaks. That's the reason why. And those considered as truly wise were given crowns of oak leaves, symbolizing their victory in attaining such knowledge and becoming wise. And the Hebrew word for oak is alon, A-L-O-N in English, which has the same prefix al that begins the name Elohim. And the Hebrew word on refers to creative ability. In this way, the oak or alon signifies the Divine Father, Al, the creator of all. So you can see this whole significance, I hope. The 1623 De Dignitate et Augmentis Scientiarum was entirely written by Francis Bacon, which may also be a reason for using here two squirrels instead of a squirrel and a coney, or indeed two conies, as Francis was not a naturally born Bacon like Anthony, but was a secret son of Queen Elizabeth, who had been adopted into the Bacon family and brought up as Anthony Bacon's younger brother. And princes, like kings and queens, were considered to be immortals incarnate on earth. And this is in contrast to Anthony Bacon, who is a mortal, and he actually died in 1601, but resurrected with the help of his brother as an immortal mortal, he would have carried on his Gemini role by providing inspiration and strength to Francis from beyond the grave. Now, some of you might find this hard to take in, but this is something I experience and fully appreciate and inwardly know. When he died, Anthony left Francis with Gorhambury Manor, which enabled Francis to have a country seat and to be given later the titles Baron Verulam of Verulam and Viscount St. Alban. He was given those two titles, Baron Verulam of Verulam and Viscount St. Alban. Finally, this headpiece is important to see. Instead of the head and face of bride in the centre of the headpiece, the figure of Dionysus is shown, seated upon a throne of flowers and fruit, crowned with 5 great plumes, 5, not 7 this time, and holding peacock-like birds of paradise in each upraised hand. The veil that previously covered him is also shown, attached to his upper arms and hanging down to his genitalia, exposing and encompassing not just his face, but his whole body. And the 2 Gemini on either side are portrayed as pan-like figures, but this time they are archers, emerging out of flowers and pointing their arrows at the throne of flowers and fruits. The archer is a symbol of Eros, or Cupid, so the arrows are arrows of love. And between the peacocks and the pan-like Gemini archers are cornucopia vases of fruit, delicately balanced on flowering, ultra-thin growths of nature emerging from Dionysus's throne. And the pan-like Gemini archers and the 2 peacock-like birds of paradise are alone sufficient to indicate that this headpiece represents the spiritual world of archetypes. But so also is the Dionysian figure. Dionysus represents the male aspect of the human soul and twins the female aspect known as the bride. In other words, this Dionysus headpiece and the bride headpiece twin each other as the male and female aspects of the illumined human soul. The story of Dionysus is given in the Dionysian Mysteries myth, but suffice it to say that Dionysus represents the male aspect of the resurrected and ascended human soul, the mortal soul made immortal, so as to become an immortal mortal, shining with the knowledge of truth. And such a resurrected, ascended, illumined soul is symbolized as a swan. And in the sky, the swan's constellation is called Cygnus in Latin. It is also known as the Northern Cross. In other words, the cross and the swan are one, wherein the cross signifies the truth of being, and the swan symbolizes the truth of knowing, the Alpha Omega double truth. Now in this headpiece I'm showing, behind the 2 Gemini archers are 2 animals with the heads and long ears of hares or conies, but with the bodies of squirrels. Can you see? Long ears of hares, but the bodies of squirrels with their tails. And they're squatting and eating nuts, and their tails are suitably trimmed and neatly disposed up their spines. In other words, they are back-to-back bunnies that are part hare, part squirrel. This composite image of squirrel and hare represents the marriage of right and left, vertical and horizontal, heart and head, wisdom and strength, spontaneity and discipline, etc. It signifies the middle pillar or middle way as described in the motto of the Bacons, mediocria firma, the middle path is best. And the composite squirrel hair bunny image is the archetype of the Bacon brothers as immortal mortals and acts as an archetype for us all. And beneath each archer, Gemini archer, and composite bunny is a horned hound or hunting dog, which is shown urinating on the ground. You see, there they are, I'm pointing to now. Now, urination signifies the seeding of nature, with the urine substituting for semen. And projecting from the dog's heads are the horns of long-horned cattle, bulls in this instance. And the bull, or Taurus, the hieroglyphic sigil of which gives us the letter A, is symbolic of the Creator who sounds the word of truth, thereby seeding vocally the whole universe. So in this way, each dog is shown creating the universe and procreating all nature within it, above and below. And a dog, which is God spelt backwards, is known as man's best friend. And friendship is what life is really all about. So I'll stop my screen sharing there and I'll end my talk there. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.